Welcome to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this video finds you well wherever you are watching us from. There is serious division among Mount Kenya members of parliament as far as the proposed finance bill 2023 is concerned. The members of parliament are under a lot of pressure from the citizens to ignore Ruto's push for this law that will only make life become more unbearable. But William Ruto has made it crystal clear that the UDA and Kenya Kwanza members of parliament have got no choice but to support this very unpopular bill. Instead, it is reported that there is a tax dilemma for Ruto in Mount Kenya as MPs differ on push for its support. And the reason why it's becoming very difficult for the members of parliament is because when William Ruto was campaigning in 2022, he had actually used the very leaders from Mount Kenya to orchestrate an onslaught against the former president Uhuru Kenyatta. And all the leaders, including Gachagua, Ndindi Nyoro, Kimani Ichung'wah, Alice Wahome, name them, ganged up and they accused Uhuru Kenyatta as the man who was responsible for all the predicaments that Mount Kenya citizens were going through. And they told the Mount Kenyans that they were solely the alternative that will make life easier for them. And they said that when they take over power, within only 100 days, they would ensure that the cost of living comes down. And today, the very citizens who are told that that the cost of life will come down within 100 days are feeling the hits of this very regime as a result of proposed taxes and increased prices of basic commodities. Even as we speak today, the prices of sugar within just 30 days increased by almost 100 to 200 Kenyan shillings. And this is happening, but the bill has not yet been passed. And even to make it worse, the people who are leading the calls for the increment of 16% on fuel product are the very sons and daughters of Mundi. And William Ruto is very clever. He has charged Kimani Ichung'wah, who is the leader of the majority leader in the National Assembly, and he's got no choice but to push for these levies. And then he's being backed and given support by none other than Ndindi Nyoro, who is leading the budget committee. So you will never see Ruto, the very allies from Rift Valley leading this, so that when people look at them, they see they regard the men who will be solely responsible for making life very unbearable for Kenyans. So the hustlers are asking just one question: what is really happening? Because this administration has become a shadow of itself. You cannot imagine that this is the William Ruto who was campaigning with those very sweet words, who was promising heaven, but now he can't deliver even hell. And they are asking questions and they are piling pressure on their members of parliament to reject the bill that is pending in parliament, because if 16% will be imposed on fuel products, then you know what will happen. I said that the manufacturers and the transporters and the wholesalers and retailers will pass the burden to Kenyans. And Kenyans are already overburdened. When William Ruto ascended to power, he abandoned all the subsidies that Uhuru Kenyatta had put in place. And so the cost of fuel is just high, the cost of electricity, the cost of education, the cost of UNRA. And the Mount Kenya fraternity have started making noise, and they're saying that they cannot sit back and watch. The other day, you saw the union of civil servants union going to the streets to protest against the 3% tax that is supposed to be levied on them. And they're saying that they want to force people to own houses. And this is the reason why there is serious division in Mount Kenya. There are those people who are torn in between, they feel like, should we continue supporting William Ruto? There are others who are now seeing the reality and they're saying, no, this must stop. They are in between a rock and a hard place. The other thing that is coming out very clearly is the fact that when the Kenya Kwanza team was campaigning, they accused Raila Odinga of taking away Uhuru Kenyatta from them. And they said that after overwhelmingly voting for Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga took him away to Kisumu and he took all the development projects to Kisumu, abandoning them. And Rigathi Gachagua told them that when the Kenya Kwanza team forms government, then they will get all the development projects that Uhuru took to Kisumu. But we all know that one of the reasons why Wahome, the cabinet secretary in the Ministry of Water, disagreed with her PS is because William Ruto is taking projects that are ostensibly meant to go to Mount Kenya and is taking them elsewhere, like Rift Valley. And when Rigathi men leave office, instead of replacing them with Rigathi men, he would pick someone from the Kalenjin nation. This is in the open. I understand that meritocracy demands that anybody, as long as you're a Kenyan and you qualify, then you're supposed to be given an office to run. But it cannot be that we are only talking of two tribes in the country, and even within the two tribes, they are fighting themselves. One tribe has the lion's share. So the Mount Kenya fraternity are seeing the reality that even the development projects that they were promised was a mere mirage. It's not there. And I've seen this joke that when William Ruto goes to other counties like Nyanza, Western, where he really launches serious development projects, roads and airstrips and airports and water projects. But when he goes to Central, he goes for prayers. They organize for interdenominational prayer rallies. And what they do is that they give Rigathi Gachagua a chance. And he will be speaking and chiding and orchestrating an onslaught against the opposition. Then they come out with nothing. And it is causing a serious problem. And this is the reason also why the Mount Kenya fraternity is now telling the Mount Kenya leaders to look at William Ruto with two eyes. One eye closed and one eye open, because everything that he promised them is not there. And they are now realizing that when Raila told William Ruto, led protests that William Ruto should lower the cost of living, should vacate office, fighting for electoral justice, Raila was actually right. Because remember, Rigathi Gachagua had even promised that they would arrest him. Nothing will happen. That's what they said. Kimani Chunga was saying that even if you arrest Raila, nothing will happen. And they keep, when Raila, hated the political temperatures and telling the people to go out on the streets to push this government and compel the government to listen to the people. They said that Raila wanted to kill their businesses. But the people are soon realizing that really Raila did not want to kill their businesses. He was actually pushing the government to lower down the cost of living. The other day, Raila said that it is not about him. Raila can afford, 10 meals in a day. He does not feel the pain of buying unga at 250. Neither does he feel the pain of buying sugar at 480. And Raila is telling them that he's doing this for their own sake. And the Mount Kenya fraternity, the Mount Kenya electorates have really decided that they're not going to sit back and watch this government doing what they're doing. The other thing that has happened is that the hustler nation has been forgotten. No one talks about the hustler anymore. People talk about 2027. And no one talks about Mutu wa Boda Boda, Mama Mboga. No one talks about them. In fact, the person who now talks about the hustler is the Azimio fraternity, because Azimio is telling the government not to raise taxes. Azimio is telling the government to ensure that the hustler who cannot even afford 1 meal in a day are given jobs. It is now vice versa. all the lies have been opened and put, like I said, the clothes have been removed. So they know how to package their lies in such a decent suit that you cannot realize that they are lying. But I know that with the time, you can only lie, to some people sometimes, but not all the time. And now, people must see the truth. Why? Parents cannot take their children to school. Their families, which cannot afford even 2 meals in a day. There are families that are living in fear because of insecurity. The cost of living has just skyrocketed. And this is the reason, ladies and gentlemen, why there is a lot of pressure. And those who voted for William Ruto are telling their members of parliament that we are watching you. If you dare pass this bill, then we know who will betray us. In fact, the Azimio are pushing for a voting system when this bill will be voted in parliament. They want the members of parliament to be called in front of the parliament, the parliament floor, so that when your name is called, you either state categorically whether you vote yes or no in full glare of the camera, so that people can know. And if the Kenya Kwanza team will oppose the calls by Azimio to vote openly, then we will start questioning what they are afraid of, because they are saying that we made it very clear that this bill is good for Kenyans. So if it is good for Kenyans, let them vote openly so that we see who votes yes because they believe it is good for us. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are coming from central Kenya, tell us whether you support this bill. Tell us whether you still believe that William Ruto should be given time to fix the economy. With all this tax being imposed, 3% being forced on people, 16% being levied on people, tell me whether you still believe that William Ruto is the right man to fix this economy. If you ask me, the Kenya Kwanza team has got a plan on paper, but the implementation is very poor and it won't be realized. I don't know what you think, but from where I sit, Kenya Kwanza is a shadow of itself, a mirage, and it is not fit to be in office. This is my take.